What if the greatest chapter of his life began with a letter he never sent? Before the fame, before the goals, before the trophies, there was just a kid, standing on the edge of the unknown. This is the story of the night Cristiano Ronaldo said goodbye to everything he knew, and stepped into a storm he couldn't see past. Not as a legend, but as a boy with nothing more than a dream and a choice. The letter he never sent. It was past midnight when Ronaldo sat alone in the small dormitory room at the sporting academy. Outside, the lights of Lisbon flickered in the distance. Inside, the silence was so thick it felt like even the walls were holding their breath. His duffel bag lay half-zipped on the bed. A Manchester United crest peeked out from a neatly folded jersey. It wasn't his yet, but in 48 hours, it would be. His fingers hovered over a blank piece of paper. No greeting. No name. Just a thought he couldn't push away. He didn't know who it was for. Maybe the academy staff. Maybe his teammates. Maybe the streets he grew up running barefoot on. Or maybe, just maybe, it was for himself. He started writing. I don't know if I'm ready. The pen paused. How do you admit fear when your whole life you've only been allowed to show hunger? Manchester United. The Premier League. Sir Alex Ferguson. It wasn't just a step up. It was a whole new planet. And he was just a kid from Madeira with a dream that had grown teeth. His mind flashed back to his first day at sporting. How his mom cried at the airport. How his dad tried to be strong but hugged him too long. How he couldn't stop throwing up for 3 days straight. He had survived that. But this felt different. This felt like goodbye. He looked around the room, the cracked wall near the door, the poster of Luis Figo taped above his bed, the tiny desk where he wrote letters home he never sent. This place had become home. Not by comfort, but by fire. Every scar on his shin, every late-night sprint, every meal skipped because he couldn't afford protein shakes, this building had witnessed all of it. And now he was supposed to leave it all behind. He kept writing. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. For the mornings you woke me up at 5. For the times you yelled at me not because I failed, but because you knew I could do better. For every time you let me cry without asking why. He stopped again. His throat tightened. Not because of nerves. Because he knew once he boarded that plane, he wouldn't come back the same. And maybe that was the hardest part. He didn't fear England. He didn't fear the pressure. He feared losing the version of himself that only this place had known. The quiet, scared, relentless boy who just wanted to prove he belonged. He folded the letter and signed. Didn't place it in an envelope. Didn't pack it. He slid it into the drawer of the desk. Shut it slowly. Maybe someone would find it one day. Maybe no one ever would. But it didn't matter. The letter had never really been for them. It was his way of saying goodbye to who he was. So he could become who he needed to be. The farewell game. The stadium was only half full, but to Ronaldo, it felt like the whole world had shown up. It was just a pre-season friendly against a second-tier Portuguese side, but for him, it was something else entirely. It was goodbye. Not officially, no one had made an announcement, but the whispers in the hallways, the looks from coaches, the occasional British scout in the stands, they all said the same thing. This would be the last time he wore the green and white. He stepped onto the pitch like it was sacred ground. Every blade of grass, every line, every shadow, he memorized it all, not wanting to forget a single detail. He warmed up with his usual intensity, but his eyes kept drifting to the stands where he knew his mother sat. She had taken the overnight bus from Madeira just to see him one more time in the sporting jersey. In the tunnel, his teammates laughed and joked, but Ronaldo was silent. Focused. Somewhere between present and not. He wasn't nervous. He was reverent. The whistle blew. The game began. Within minutes, it was clear he was playing on a different frequency. His first touch was silk. His first pass, a perfectly weighted through ball. Then came the run down the wing, the stepovers, the fake, the cross. Applause. But he didn't smile. It wasn't for show. It was a performance for one. For the place that made him. For the kid who used to sneak onto fields because he couldn't afford boots. For every coach who yelled. Every teammate who doubted. Every lunch he skipped because protein shakes were too expensive. The crowd noticed. So did the scouts. But more importantly, so did his mother. At halftime, he didn't go straight to the locker room. He lingered by the tunnel, head bowed. His coach put a hand on his shoulder. Said nothing. Just nodded. The second half was fireworks. A free kick curled into the top corner. A nutmeg that left defenders spinning. An assist that looked like poetry. By the 70th minute, the crowd was chanting his name. Ronaldo. Ronaldo. And that's when the substitution board went up. Number 28. Off. He jogged off slowly, soaking it in. He looked to the stands. His mother had tears in her eyes. So did he. He waved, not to the crowd, but to the academy. To the dreams. To the struggle. And as he walked past the bench, he didn't sit down. He kept walking. Down the tunnel. Toward the future. That game was never recorded in history books. But for Ronaldo, it was everything. The walk to the plane. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the airport was already buzzing. Businessmen sipping espresso, kids yawning under heavy backpacks, announcements echoing overhead. Ronaldo sat in the corner of gate 17, his hoodie pulled low, his duffel bag resting at his feet. The flight to Manchester was boarding in 45 minutes. He had said goodbye to his mother 2 hours ago. She hugged him tighter than ever before, whispering things he couldn't fully hear over the sound of his own thoughts. Her eyes had said more than her words. They always did. Now he was alone. Not lonely. But alone. There's a difference. A sporting staff member had accompanied him to the airport but left after handing him a small envelope. From Mr. Aurelio, he'd said. Inside, a note. There are two kinds of players. Those who leave and those who disappear. Don't disappear. He folded it and slipped it into his wallet. This wasn't just a new club. It was a new life. His phone buzzed. A message from an academy friend. Already miss you. Don't forget who you are. Who was he? The skinny kid from Madeira who cried the first night in Lisbon. The teenager who ran sprints in the rain because he didn't want to be average? Or the man about to walk onto a team with Ryan Giggs and Paul Scholes? His number wasn't even confirmed yet. He didn't care. He was there to earn it. They called for boarding. As he stood, something inside him shifted. This was it. The line moved slowly, but Ronaldo's mind was racing. Not with fear, but with calculation. What would they expect from him? What would they say when they saw his first touch? Would they laugh at his accent? Would they respect his speed? Would they believe in him like Sporting did? He looked back, one last time, toward the city skyline beyond the airport windows. Lisbon still asleep. But he wasn't. He was wide awake. At the plane's door, the flight attendant smiled. Welcome aboard. He didn't smile back. He nodded. And stepped on. Not as a boy. Not as a fan. Not even as a dreamer. But as a storm waiting to break. The first training. It wasn't a match. It wasn't televised. But to Ronaldo, it felt like a final. Carrington Training Ground, 9 a.m. The Manchester air was thick and damp. Rain from the night before still clung to the grass like a warning. Ronaldo stood in the corner of the pitch, stretching, eyes darting from one teammate to the next. Paul Scholes. Nicky Butt. Rio Ferdinand. Legends. In him. The kid from Madeira. Whispers followed him, big price tag, too flashy, he'll need to bulk up. He heard them. Pretended not to. But they lived in his spine. Sir Alex was there, standing under a black umbrella. Watching. Warm-up drills started. Simple passes. Short sprints. But Ronaldo moved like every motion was proof. Not just of talent, but of hunger. Then came the scrimmage. He was paired with the reserves. Giggs and Scholes were on the opposite side. Ronaldo didn't care. He wanted them to watch. To test him. To make him bleed if necessary. And they did. Tackles flew. Elbows were subtle but sharp. He was shoved, tripped, laughed at. But he kept getting up. Then it happened. Ball at his feet. Defender in front. One step over. Then another. A flick, a burst, a sprint. Past one. Then another. Cross into the box. Goal. No cheer. Just silence. Then a slow clap from Gary Neville. "All right then," someone muttered. "He's for real." Ronaldo didn't smile. He jogged back. Business. Later, in the locker room, someone tossed him a protein bar. No words. Just a nod. He nodded back. Respect wasn't given here. It was earned. And today, he'd earned a drop of it. After the session, Sir Alex pulled him aside. "Good first day," he said. "But remember, this is Manchester United. You haven't made it yet." Ronaldo nodded. "I didn't come here because I made it, sir. I came here to prove I will." Sir Alex didn't reply. He just smiled. Back at the dorm, Ronaldo sat on his bed, unwrapping the protein bar like it was gold. He looked out the window. Rain again. But it didn't matter. He had stepped into the storm. And hadn't blinked. The message in the mirror. The night before his debut, Ronaldo couldn't sleep. The hotel room was quiet, too quiet. The walls didn't hum like home. The mattress was too stiff. The sheets smelled like detergent, not sun-dried cotton. But mostly, it was his thoughts that kept him awake. They ran in circles, scenarios, expectations, fears. Tomorrow he'd be wearing the number 7. The same number as Cantona. Beckham. Legends. He got up, barefoot, and walked to the bathroom. The mirror was fogged from a shower he hadn't taken. He stared at himself. Not the hair, not the muscles. The eyes. Were they ready? He remembered something his father used to say. The mirror never lies. But it never helps either. So he didn't wait for answers. He opened his notebook, the same one he'd kept since Lisbon, and scribbled a sentence. "Make them remember your name." Then, finally, he slept. Match day. Old Trafford was thunder and steel. The air was electric. He walked out, not as a starter, but the whole stadium seemed to already know him. Like they were waiting. 68th minute. The board went up. Number 7. He stepped onto the pitch. First touch? Sharp. First sprint? Blinding. He danced down the flank. Cross. Corner. Step-overs. The crowd erupted. He didn't score that day. He didn't need to. He left the pitch with 75,000 people chanting his name. And on the team bus, Sir Alex passed by, tapped his shoulder. "You were born for this." Ronaldo didn't speak. He looked out the window, watching the city blur. Later, alone in his room, he opened the notebook again. Under his sentence from last night, he added, "They will." And they did. Some journeys don't begin with applause. They begin with silence, sacrifice, and a promise made only to yourself. Ronaldo didn't just leave home, he left behind who he was, to become who he needed to be. And the world? It didn't know yet. But after that letter, after that plane, that first training, that first chant, it would never forget his name. If you felt something watching this, subscribe to the Ronaldo Chronicles for more stories that show the man behind the legend.